we'll bring those guys back up. I do like Nolan Arenado here. I do like Brett Gardner in the spot, although I'm not sure if he's going to be playing every day for the Yankees. He's a good, interesting one to maybe zero in on and see what they're saying, if anything, about him. I don't know. There's just a lot of mouths to feed in New York. I'm not sure if he's going to be able to hold up his end of the bargain for your team in that case. But we're back on the clock. I could take a hitter here, or we could jump on another reliever, possibly. You know, I don't mind waiting a little bit longer on relievers to get... Well, hold on. Let's see. Let's reevaluate which hitters are available here. Yeah, there are a fair amount of guys I like. I should probably just take another closer. At least get my second one, and then I can stop worrying about it for a while. And let's consult my actual relief pitcher rankings to see who I have ranked highest of the available options. Looks like Jansen is it, but with his injury concerns, I'm not really ready to go there. I think Balfour is the guy I have ranked next highest. Or is it Papelbon? Yeah, I have Balfour slightly ahead. Now, you know what? I don't want a closer. Closers are boring. We're going to take Nolan Arenado. Just to highlight the pick. He's a guy I like, and he'll fit my infield position. Hopefully deliver some solid numbers, playing half his game in Coors. Brandon Phillips is taken just after me. And I'm going to kind of check in with the crew here, see how much longer we want to continue with the stream. If only because, like I said, at this point it's a lot of team need, a lot of people getting value specific to their team, and I'm not sure how much longer these guys want to go broadcasting. We might just finish the draft, although I guess if we're going to finish it, we might as well keep streaming. But I'll check in with these guys. Give me a minute here. So, let's see. I am going to start to throw closers in the queue here because I do need to at least be mindful of who's going, how many guys are left. So I'll put them in the order I have them ranked. So that would be, looks like Balfour, Soriano, Papelbon, Cizek. I have no idea how to pronounce that guy's name. I apologize if I'm screwing it up. Neftali Feliz, Houston Street, Jim Johnson. Again, down on him mostly. That's Jim Henderson. Whoops. Jim Johnson may not be available anymore. Might have been taken, or am I just staring at him and missing him? I think he's been selected. After Jim Johnson would be Fernando Rodney. Addison Reed is gone. Nate Jones, who may not open up the season as the White Sox closer, unfortunately. Then Jim Henderson. So, did he just get selected as well? I don't know. Did I lose him? Oh man, I'm going crazy. Anyway, yeah, we're going to keep going with the stream here, and let's see. I guess just thinking about what the team needs, again, is first and foremost. 2 utility spots, still need to kind of shore up the speed problem that this team has. I'm not looking to win the stolen bases category, because hopefully with the rest of this team I can place high enough in the other counting stats and batting average that I don't need to finish first in stolen bases. Meanwhile, I still only have one closer. I'd like to get at least 2 more by the end of the draft. And if one of those guys is a really scary, like Astros guy, I'm fine with that. I want to come out of the draft with at least 3 closers, and oftentimes I want to come out of the draft with 4 or 5. and then just kind of dedicate my bench to more starters and rotate those guys in and out. I know a lot of people tend to employ that strategy, and if everyone in your league is doing it, it's hard to kind of go with that. But still, it's a strategy I think is worth exploring, and definitely a good default one to stick to, because I do feel like there's more value to be had with pitching than with hitting in the draft portion for the most part. Let's see. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 8 picks before we come back up here. We need utility players and pitchers and a catcher. Looking at the catchers available one more time, kind of weigh in there. Sal Perez, John Lucroy, Wilson Ramos are probably the 3 guys I like the most. We can check in on my catcher rankings just to, solidify that and make sure I've got my own rankings straight in my head. A lot of the time I'm drafting kind of relative to the rankings that are displayed on the draft software and just on feel more than anything else. And that comes from having played just a ton of fantasy baseball over the past 10-15 years. But it is good to kind of make sure what you're looking at, or what picks you're making jive with the research you did when you did the rankings. Because sometimes you forget why you ranked a guy as highly as you did. Like right now I have Sal Perez as my number 6 catcher, and he's still available while Brian McCann is gone. That said, he probably won't last much longer. If I want him, I probably need to take him with one of the next 2 picks, assuming he makes it to me here in the first place. It'll be helpful to know who has a catcher picking before us. There are 4 teams without catchers. It's possible one of them will take Sal Perez, right? Again, I'm not saying this out loud because I know they can hear me in table talk. Again, I'm just inner monologue, thinking about if that's the catcher you want. I probably don't want him in this spot, but if that's the guy I wanted, I would probably have to take him with one of these 2 picks. Knowing that Jason picking between my 2 picks already has Brian McCann at catcher means that if Perez makes it to my first pick, I could easily pass on him there and get him with my second of these 2 to ensure that I get him before it goes into that long stretch. It goes back into that long stretch where I don't have any picks. So yeah, let's go back to. I guess we just need to look at batters now because it's all utility and catcher at this point. Let's kind of catch up on some of the picks we missed. I'm sorry about that. I wasn't really doing that, but Brandon Phillips went, then Chris Medlin, Jared Weaver, Alfonso Soriano, Danny Salazar, great value on Salazar, Rafael Soriano, Grant Balfour, Houston Street, Starlin Castro, Mike Napoli, Aramis Ramirez, and Kyle Seager. Aramis Ramirez, Kyle Seager, pretty good value at third base, and one of the reasons that you can pass on the elite guys, but you have to be pretty, resolved to wait to try to get value on a guy like Seager or Aram. With that said, again, looking at kind of the top players available to me here, Brett Gardner is calling my name. I'm going to try to find out some. Let's go Yankees depth chart. Good old Google. We'll check ESPN because it's one of the top hits. So yeah, they have Gardner listed as the starting left fielder with Ellsbury and Beltran starting in center and right. Ichiro backing them up. Ichiro and Soriano backing them up, with Soriano as the everyday DH. But when Jeter cycles in to the DH spot, Teixeira cycles into the DH spot, Gardner's not going to play every day. I'm on the clock here. I missed out on Papelbon, Chase Utley, Jonathan LaCroix, and Hisashi Iwakuma. Utley was a guy I was considering there. I think he's pretty undervalued this season. Looking at the outfielders I could potentially take here to shore up that stolen base situation. Again, there are a lot of options here that kind of fit that bill, so I'm going to pass on that for now. Go back to looking at relievers. You know, I'm going to gamble on Casey Janssen here. He's going to put up good stats, and if I need to, I can maybe draft Sergio Santos, his backup, as kind of a handcuff, to steal a phrase from fantasy football. It doesn't come up in baseball very often, but sometimes with closers and setup men it can. So yeah, we're going to take Janssen here and see what happens on the wheel and come back to take somebody else. Possibly a closer, possibly one of those hitters we were looking at. There is something to be said about just kind of increasing our strength in certain areas, like going for another high batting average, quality home run guy. And when I say this, I'm specifically looking at Victor Martinez on my screen. Definitely on the downside of his career. He's been playing a long time, but he's mostly going to play first base and DH. And with that said, he's still going to be a decent source of power and RBI while having a good batting average as well. And batting average at this point in the draft is one of the harder things to get. With that said, if I was going to take Victor Martinez in this spot, I would probably just take Sal Perez instead, because he does pretty much all the same things, except he does it from the catcher spot, as opposed to somebody who's just going to sit in my utility. And at this point, I'm going to need to get stolen bases from those utility spots, and Martinez and Salvador Perez are both. Neither of them is going to do that. Anyway, keep it moving. I definitely could take another starter here as well, or another reliever. It is somewhere where I could potentially pick up some value. There are guys that fit the bill. You know, Samardzija, big strikeouts, risky everywhere else. Ryu, kind of just a all-around decent guy to have. Hiroki Kuroda, very similar in that way, just like decent ERA, decent whip, decent strikeouts, handful of wins. Just, you know what you're getting. Let's see. About to come up here. Definitely leaning towards a hitter as opposed to a pitcher. Jason just took Perez. That was one of the guys I was seriously considering. So maybe it is time to take another pitcher. He kind of took what I was saying about how many other people still need catchers to heart, I think, and just took the guy he wanted. So yeah, looking at relievers one more time. I think Zizek is the guy I have ranked the highest, right behind Neftali, right ahead of Neftali Feliz. I might like Feliz better, but I'm worried that he might not be the closer there the whole year, whereas Zizek is probably relatively safe in that role. So that's why I have him ranked higher, and that's why I'm considering him first here. Take one more quick peek at the hitters that I could potentially be taking. And yeah, you know, none of these guys are really calling my name. I'm just going to take another closer. I've got 3 now, assuming Janssen can start the year in that role. And so I can kind of take a break from taking relievers and focus on rounding out my offense and my starting pitching staff. With that said, that's my plan. That's not necessarily how the draft is going to play out. Like, if there's a crazy run on hitters or starters and I can't get value at that position anymore, I will start to maybe creep back towards the relievers and see if there's value to be had there. Alright, check in on the chat here one more time. And let's see. Steve says, talking about catchers, wouldn't you be happy with any of the next 4 catchers in a 10-team league? Even Yan Gomes, since he hits for a high average. Yeah, I mean, I totally agree, Steve. A lot of these guys are basically the same. I'm low on Wieters relative to most rankers. And with that said, he's still a guy I'd be fine having on my team. I just am not going to draft him highly at all. So let's see who else has been picked here. After I took Zizek, Leonis Martin and Xander Bogaerts were taken. Might be a bit of a reach on Bogaerts. I'd have to look to see what other infielders are available. Like, I don't think I would take him over Asdrubal Cabrera or Andrelton Simmons, although I guess it depends on what your team needs.